Hey everybody, it's HBCU Game Day. What's going on? I'm Tyler Carr in Atlanta, joined now by my main man. Which contributor are we going to go to around the country? I think we'll make a stop in Tallahassee, Florida right now. Vaughn Wilson is in. Vaughn, you dropped a video this week, an exclusive with former FAMU coach Billy Joe. Talked about his time at FAMU, a lot of interesting subjects. Man, he is one of the most fabled voices in HBCU football. How did that interview come about? Give us the behind the scenes on your sit down with Billy Joe.
Well, as you know, Tolly, I, being the golf analyst of the crew, was in town in Birmingham for the PGA Works Collegiate National Championship, and Howard was beating the brains out of everybody. So I was kind of bored after the first round. It was kind of obvious where it was going. And I thought about it. I was like, Billy Joe lives in Birmingham. I got all these cameras. I got all this equipment. I wonder would he be down for a sit down? Called Coach Joe, and he was like, man, come over tonight. He didn't even say wait till tomorrow or anything. Come over. You're like family. His wife met me at the door. We went down in his man cave, and an hour later, you saw the results of what we talked about for about an hour.
All right, so we got the exclusive video on YouTube right now. You can check it out. Man, he gave names, he gave receipts. He did not hold back at all.
He did not. He said, it's time we let it out. I could tell he started getting more hyped up, the closer we got to recording. There were some things he wanted to say. He hadn't had the opportunity, hadn't had the forum. Since he left FAMU, and, it was just time for him to release. And I think that's what we saw in the longevity and explanations that he did about his journey.
Wow. Were you surprised at all by his transparency, his openness? What were you anticipating heading in?
Well, knowing how he writes, he's an amazing writer. When he writes soliloquy, I call it, on Facebook. It's long, but I always read it because he's a very, very intelligent guy. I mean, his IQ has to be up there with the best of them. And so I knew that he would elaborate on the subjects. Did not expect what I got. Pleasantly surprised that he filled in some gaps, of a lot of Rattler fans that I've talked to say, wow, I never knew that about Billy Joe and his journey and the struggles he had with administration. He was very frank about the struggles he had with administration, which, until that point, he hadn't had a losing season. And as you see on the video, he says the year that FAMU decided to go D1, and it destroyed his team because he had to disband everyone, because as soon as the team went Division I, it made several players ineligible. And he had Willie Simmons, and it's, like I said in the video, it's a sore spot for Willie Simmons today. FAMU's head coach, for him to finally come back, because he wanted to come back and play his senior year as the quarterback for FAMU.
Did he get a raw deal, Vaughn? That was a murderer's row with no weapons. I mean, they just sent him out there with nothing against the D1 schedule, and then he gets fired, after the season. Was that just a raw deal in FAMU history for Coach Billy Joe?
No, it was, because he was very clear. The administration turned on him when he was not in favor of going D1 without a plan. They brought it to him and forced it on him, and he had to deal that hand that was given him. But he didn't have a chance, because not only did he have his full team to go in, he lost several of the players that he was expecting to play in that year. So you're going into superior competition with an inferior team. It was just a recipe for the disaster that it was.
So people might think that, after this, kind of bad experience with, sticking your toe into the Division I FBS waters, that he would just have a bad opinion and bad feelings about anything, when it comes to FBS football. I'll tell you what we're going to do, Vaughn. We're going to give the crew time to get this queued up. We got a soundbite from Billy Joe with sound. He talks about his theory of what HBCUs should do now in regards to, hey, think about FBS or not. His answer, if you have not seen the video, might surprise you. Let's hear what Coach Billy Joe has to say about HBCUs considering a jump to FBS.
Yes, I think it should be a goal because the landscape for recruiting top-notch quality 5-star Division I single A football players are out there, and they would love to come to FAMU and other HBCUs. But the infrastructure has to be there, and the commitment must be there so that you can be attractive for a 5-star Division I single A kid. And of course, football, and of course basketball as well, is extremely popular in the black community.
Right.
Extremely popular. Because I could always get a 2 or 3-star athlete, not the top ball players, because they're going to go to Florida State, University of Florida, Miami, but I can get the next level football player and he'll be just as good as the athlete that's going to FSU and University of Florida, because there's so many out there, they can't get them all. Right. You know, the limitations on scholarships. So there's so many great black athletes out there in the state of Florida and around the country that I think it would bode well for Division I AA HBCUs to make that jump. Now, I think it would be great when the jump is made to make it as a conference, a black college conference, and go in that way where you're playing all Division I single A schools and maybe 1 or 2 schools outside of your conference. You can play an Ohio State or an FSU or Miami, but basically you'll be playing the same HBCUs, but you are now an FBS school.
So Vaughn, he talks about, you know, making the jump, but not as an individual. He says if HBCUs have a plan conference-wide to go in together, and then you can struggle together. And then a game or two, hey, you got to play Ohio State, Notre Dame, whoever you got to play. But if you can go in that thing together, that's a different proposition as opposed to one school trying to do it on its own, like we saw FAMU several years ago. Is that the craziest thing you've heard today, Vaughn, or that you heard last week?
It was not at all, because I believe what he said, and what he emphasized before moving to the next division to get the infrastructure in place, which was his whole problem with the FAMU administration for moving to D1 when they did. It was nothing was in place. Absolutely nothing was in place. There has to be better facilities. There has to be marketing. There has to be a plan to capitalize off of the money that is available at the FBS level. The money is there. Also, by going as a conference, you would not have to play the Ohio States and UCLA's and the Alabamas, you know, your whole schedule. You could play comparable teams from within your conference and then schedule a few other games. And, you know, a big part of that is being prepared to go D1A. Also in that interview, he talked about money games, which he absolutely hates. Guarantee games get under his skin. I could see the anger in him about playing money games. But at this point, when you have improved, there's opportunities to win those games, make those games closer, but your whole schedule is not dependent on that because you have a conference to depend on the bulk of your schedule.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. Infrastructure has to be there. Your money has to be lined up. No one is trying to say, hey, it's just easy to just go jump into FBS football. We know what it takes not only for your football program, but for your other programs as well. But if there's ever a day where we see HBCUs really take that next step in evolution and classification, I think a plan of going in together, a pack, as opposed to, someone trying to be a one-off, you will find more success, if there's any success there to be found. Vaughn, it was a great interview.
And Tolly,
yeah, go ahead.
And Tyler, I got to say one more thing. We got to go back and listen to the interview of when FAMU entered the SWAC and Dr. Charles McClellan was talking, because he hinted that this was not off the table. He didn't say the SWAC is going FBS, but if you listen to him very carefully, it's not off the table. Obviously, he, of all people, knows there's a lot of infrastructure to be done. But we have to listen back to that interview, because he kind of hinted that should be a goal of the SWAC. I'll just put it that way. That should be a goal.
Yeah, and you never know. The people have plans and strategic plans. Every university, you would think every conference has their strategic plans of where they want to be in the future and shooting for those things. Vaughn, it was a great interview. Where do you think Billy Joe sits in the amount of respect we should have for him, especially while he's still here at 82 years young, as one of the most, we said it before, one of the most fabled coaches in HBCU football?
Well, he won 5 consecutive Black national championships at Central State. Then he came to FAMU, and not only did they win conference, obliterating the conference, but he is one of the only coaches to win NCAA playoff games. And to be honest, they were a quarter and a couple of blunders away from getting into the championship again. He really ranks up there. You think of the great names in HBCU athletics, and while many of the SWAC coaches never had an opportunity because the conference opted out, but not many coaches have won games in the NCAA tournament.
Well, it's a great interview. You can find it on the YouTube page of HBCU Game Day. It's an exclusive with Billy Joe and Vaughn Wilson from the home of Billy Joe, and he does not hold back. So if you have not heard the interview yet, we'll put it in the comments here. We'll link to it. Make sure you check it out. Vaughn, we appreciate you as always, man. Enjoy some of that weather you got down there in Tallahassee. If you wait about another 5 minutes, I'm sure it'll change. But we'll talk to you soon. He's Vaughn Wilson in Tallahassee. I'm Tolly Carr here in Atlanta, HBCU Game Day Studios. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you a little later.